It was adorable. She has a right to feel the things that she feels. Flowers don't bloom in the dark. Is she really a witch? She seems like a sweet old woman. Well, good morning. It's about a week into March, and I have a lot of reading to do. I have been invited by Beccie once again to participate in her Unstuff Your TBR challenge and vlog series. The prompt is to read something with flowers or nature-esque stuff on the cover. And this was picked by Monica this year because, or this month, because Monica, it's her birthday month. So she chose, and I love this. It is middle grade March, and I already have a huge pile of possibilities, but a lot of them do have flowers on the cover, trees, things like that. So it's perfect because I also wanted to make sure that for middle grade March this year, I read what's on my shelves before I bought anything new. I really did very well with the exception of 2 books. But other than that, every book that I picked was from my shelves. So it works perfectly because I am unstuffing my middle grade TBR this month with books that have nature and flowers and things like that on the cover. I have my coffee. I'm streaming Saturday Morning Momentum with Kat at Kat's Novel Adventures. She does that mostly every Saturday with an hour of power hour to do whatever you need to do, read, things around the house. So I figured it was a perfect start to get some reading done and just take it easy this morning. So here are the 3 books that I plan on reading during the next couple of weeks. So I want to try to get these 3 read. But first up, and you could see here we got trees and leaves on the top, and then we got these cute little purple flowers down on the bottom. So first up is Gilded Girl. This is a historical fantasy. So it takes place in New York City in the early 1900s. I think it's like 1905. And we have Izzy and Sarah, who are from 2 different social classes. Izzy is from the servant class, and Sarah was from the upper class until her father's untimely death. But now she has to be put to work to work off his debts. However, where she goes to work is the Miss Posterity's Academy for Practical Magic. Woo, say that 5 times fast. It is a school in New York City for, you know, learning your magic, things like that. So I'm really excited for this because this just seems like an adorable read. It sounds like it's going to be something that's going to tug a little bit at my heartstrings, and I just love a good little whimsy and magic attached to my stories. It's described as heartfelt, fast-paced, and utterly absorbing. The Gilded Girl is Alyssa Coleman's sparkling debut novel about determination, spirit, and the magic of friendship. And then the next one is The Grace of Wild Things. This was one that I tried to read last year for middle grade March, and I just never got to it. But this is perfect. Again, you got trees all up here. You got all the different types of flowers and things like that in the background. And this is an Anne of Green Gables inspired retelling or reimagining. So I'm excited for this. Well, it doesn't really say retelling. It says inspired by Anne of Green Gables, but this is about Grace, who feels like she never fits in, and everybody at the orphanage is getting adopted before her, and so she decides she's going to take matters into her own hands, and she's going to run away and live with the old witch that's in the woods, who will also help her with her magic. But it turns out that this witch is possibly stealing people's souls and gobbling them up, things like that. And then the last book that I'm going to try to pick up and read for this particular vlog is book 2 in Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Sea of Monsters. And as you can see, there is some kind of tree growing here out of this like rock, things like that. So that's going to be fun. And this is the 2nd book in a series where Percy Jackson learns about life with the Greek gods and the Olympians, and, you know, at this, you know, camp for his behavior, things like that. I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want it to be spoilery, so I'm not going to tell you about this one. But yeah, that is the 3rd book that I'm going to attempt to get to for this one. So I think I'm going to, for today, start off with The Gilded Girl. I am going to finish my coffee. I have quite a few things on the agenda today, so while also doing this, I have some content to edit, and then I'm also going out for afternoon tea at this tea parlor for my friend's birthday. So I'm gonna read for a little bit before I have to get ready. I'm going to do the few things that I have to do, and then I will see how far I get, and I'll check back in. about 50 pages into the Gilded Girl. I didn't get too much read yesterday after I got ready for my afternoon tea, which was so nice. The place I went was so lovely. It was just like a really nice experience. So I listened to a little bit on my way there and a little bit on my way home. I read a couple of chapters in the morning, and then when I got home last night, after doing a couple other things, I just had a very bad headache. And of course, the time change, daylight savings, does not help. This is so adorable so far. Already we got the snippy Emma, who is, the rich snob according to everyone else, and then Izzy, who is a servant girl. And I really like how use magic to talk about real historical events. I think that's so adorable. It's cute. There's a scene where Emma was talking about how most people don't know about the magic in the Transcontinental Railroad or something like that. I forget exactly how she worded it, but it was adorable. It was cute. And then they talk about the gas lamps versus the electric lamps, where the electric is the magical lamps. I actually did not realize, because I never read it as a kid or even as an adult. This apparently is a The Little Princess reimagining, but it doesn't say that anywhere on the back here. So I didn't know that, and I actually found that out because I was reading something on Storygraph or Goodreads, and it said this, inspired, and there's a second book. So I'm wondering if the second book would follow a reimagining of a different classic, or if it's just a continuation of this. But so far it's really cute. It's adorable. We got this cat who's your typical disgruntled cat. There's a couple of things that make me sad. I mean, obviously Izzy, the way she's treated, because she's just a servant girl. So nobody pays her any mind, and she gets in trouble. The fact that servants can't wait for their magic to just die out. It's easier for them. And Izzy, is just whoever told them that. So it really just I feel in such a middle grade way opens up the idea of things that actually happen in history, right? Obviously I know middle grade, you're old enough and within a different scope able to understand obviously real history through a real lens, not having to sugarcoat it through magic. Good way for somebody who might be a little bit on the younger side of middle grade. I just like how they're incorporating all of the things that would have happened and really did happen during this time as these two little girls go through this adventure. And Emma, she comes off as spoiled, but just her first interactions already at being dropped off at this magical finishing school, things are not great for her. Typical fashion of a wealthier class child who doesn't get raised by their parents. It's always through nannies, and then especially if you've lost one of them. So that is definitely clearly here. Hopefully my headache will go away soon. I am streaming Sunday morning sprints with Katie, and I would rather be reading. But yeah, so I'll check back in when I have a little bit more to tell you. Okay, so I am a little bit more than halfway through today, and I might even finish this tomorrow. This is going very quickly. I feel so bad for Emma. It's her father passes, and of course now she is either got to go to the workhouse. She convinces Miss Prosperity, who is the the headmistress of the magical school, so that she doesn't have to go to the workhouse, to keep her on as the servant, so one of the housekeepers, things like that. And of course she's just working off her debts. She's not getting paid. But Emma makes me so sad, because it's she just generally does not know how life works. She was a sheltered child, but she's not a snob about it. I mean, at one point she meets somebody and his family, and I believe they were Italian immigrants. And so she said something just, why don't you take him to the doctor? not realizing like, hey, doctors cost money. But like she didn't say it in a way that like you would think that in these types of stories, like the rich spoiled brat would be like, you know, nose in the air type of person. And then she like actually felt bad because as soon as she said it, she realized, oh wait, no, like those things cost money. You know, like she is learning and she realizes like how much of a sheltered life and privileged life she lives. You know, she's not willing, I mean, she's open to and willing to like understand, you know, she just didn't know any better. On the other hand, Izzy makes me angry. She's mean. I don't like, I mean, I like Izzy, but I don't like her. Like, obviously, like, she has a right to feel the things that she feels because, you know, obviously the haves and the have-nots, which, by the way, I still love the fact that this is completely centered around the rich people having the magic and the privileges. I just love that. But, like, Izzy is just not willing to give in, like, to realize, like, hey, you know, I mean, I don't know. We still got, I'm a little bit more than halfway. I really hate Miss Posterity. I mean, I know I'm supposed to, but she's a mean villain. She's a mean old witch. Cook. The cook is like, she's not nice either. So, you know, but I do love, they call him Spaghetti because he's Italian, but like I really like him. Like Emma met him while he was like rescuing a bird, and I hope to see more of her interaction with that family, just because I love that they pulled that in here. And I think this is just oh, and the talking cat. I mean, I know it says it on the back, but like it's just so adorable because we finally got to the part where he starts talking and they realize he can talk. But he's not just a talking cat. He is known as a house dragon, but they appear as cats to humans. Guys, I love that. I have seen so many different things that say like dragons are just like cats. And I think that was just like such a perfect analogy in this book because I've seen so many memes and like so many adorable things that say like cats and dragons are pretty much just two different versions of the same animal. So I really just love that they did that with Iggy here. So that was just so adorable, and I'm kind of curious to see what other role he's gonna play in this. So that's fun. So yeah, I'll check back in when I have some more thoughts and things like that, and we'll see. Hopefully tomorrow I could finish by tomorrow night. Okay, well, I finished this last night. It only took me a couple of days. I absolutely loved this, and I have to read The Little Princess now. I mean, apparently it was pretty obvious by the description, but again, I never read The Little Princess. I don't know the concept of The Little Princess. I can't even remember if I saw the movie as a kid, so I don't know. But anyway, I loved everything about this. I gave this 4 stars. I loved the fact that Emma, who was supposed to be the spoiled brat that we would assume in this situation, actually learns so much and becomes so much more understanding very quickly. Like, she doesn't fight the information that she's learning early on, and that it takes Izzy a little bit more time to warm up to the fact that, hey, maybe she's the one judging Emma too. So I just love the dynamic between these two girls, their friendship that blossoms, the other people that are involved. I loved Tom as well. Tom was the immigrant son, the son of the immigrants. Sorry. Wow, tongue twisted. The son of the Italian immigrants who came in. And I just love how this is just such a magical spin, but still rooted in history. The Gilded Age, the bank failures, the situation with the transcontinental railroads, and like the immigration laws, and just like so many different things. The protests for not having like magic representing the protests of the workers. Like, this was just such a fun way to introduce and talk about like such a big topic in U.S. history, the Gilded Age. I loved Figgy, I think his name is, the cat, the house dragon, but he looks as a cat. And like everybody that comes in contact with him is just like, oh my God, did that cat just talk? It's so cute. It's so funny. But anyway, this is adorable. I gave this 4 stars, and I would recommend this as well. Hey guys over there, can you stop fighting with each other? You can share that window. It's very big. So with that being said, I did start this today, Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters, because you gotta big old tree there. So nature, yeah. And this is the second book in the Percy Jackson series. So this picks up with Percy, I believe, going into, or he's finishing up 7th grade at his new school. And he's going to go back to Camp Half-Blood from the first book. And there's a new set of monsters and a new set of issues. I'm not going to give too much spoilers because I don't remember what was actually on the back of the first cover versus what was actually learned in the book. So I'm excited for this. I only just started listening on my way to work this morning. So I'm on my way home. So I'm about 4 chapters in. So I'm just going to sit and relax. It is a beautiful day. I'm going to try to maybe go outside. It's like 70 degrees right now. Oh my God. That is like unheard of for this time of year. But it's much needed, especially after that 30-inch snowstorm that we had a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to read a little bit more of this. I'm going to relax and then maybe get some other things done for my classes, things like that. Finished Percy Jackson. And yeah, I know I haven't checked in a while because I just read through this so fast. It's cute. It's fun. I love like the adventure aspect of it. Definitely excited to see what happens in the rest of the series. So we get Percy and his friends, Annabeth, and somebody new is introduced, Tyson, to go on this quest for something to do with this tree. So we found out what the deal with this tree is, and they're going on a quest to the Sea of Monsters to get the, I don't know if you can really see it in that image there, the Golden Fleece. So that's what this whole adventure is about. And we find out some more truth about Percy and his family. We find out about prophecy. And we know by the end of this book that this prophecy can go one of 2 ways. And so we kind of have, a situation. So definitely enjoyable. I think I gave this 4 stars. I wish there was a little bit more of like some of the other characters than that we saw like in the first book, but I still enjoyed this. I still want to see where the rest of this is going. But I am going to take a break from middle grade in terms of this vlog. But I do have a book that I have to read for class due actually a couple, like 2 days before this vlog comes out, the 18th. So I have to read an adult graphic novel called Persephone, Hades, Torment. So it is a graphic novel, so I have to read and review this for class. But you could see here we got flowers in Persephone's hair, more flowers back here. We know she's spring, all that other stuff, situation with the pomegranate, all that good stuff, right? So I'm gonna count it. All right, I'm gonna count it because I have to read it anyway. So this is a different take, obviously, on the Persephone and Hades myth. So according to this one, it says that everyone thinks she was kidnapped from Demeter, her mother, but the truth is Persephone is no damsel in distress. That's what it says. Ooh, Misty and Nugget are having fun at 9 o'clock at night, so that's what you hear in the background. Sorry, but anyway, so it says after a failed scheme by Apollo, this leads to her chance encounter with Hades, and Hades has been struck by a love arrow. Hence the it's kind of shimmery. I know you can't really see in the light. But maybe you could see like the light reflecting it. So those are all the love arrows in his back. So now he's got to deal with that. His desires for her grow and all these other things. So I'm excited to kind of see this right now. The reason why I picked this, so there was like 5 options, and I picked this one because right now I'm reading the Lore Olympus webtoon series that has been converted and published. So I think I'm on. Sorry, I gotta show you this. Hold on. I don't know what she's doing, but she's having fun. So yeah, anyway, that's the mood that Misty's in tonight. But back to this. So yeah, I've been obsessed with the Lore Olympus series about Persephone and Hades, and that is another different take from the original myth. So I really wanted to see it. Like, I'm obsessed right now. So yeah, if you have any other, and it doesn't have to be graphic novels, but just any other stories about Persephone and Hades retellings and reimaginings. I did read The Games Gods Play, which I know that's not exactly a Hades Persephone, but it is a Hades reimagining, and I think that Persephone might come up in the second book. I don't know. There's a whole story behind that. So I did read that one already. I have the second book, didn't read it yet. But any other suggestions on Hades Persephone's reimaginings and retellings, I'd love to hear them. I might do this tomorrow when I get home from work. Tomorrow's Friday, and probably get this done in one sitting. Okay, so last night I wound up going to bed and not reading this. So I'm going to sit and I'm going to read this now. This seems like it's going to be a pretty quick read. I'm excited for this. I am participating this weekend in a 24-hour virtual reading retreat with the Booktube Besties. So that's Krista, Lindsay, Sarah, Amanda, and Jen. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to read this now. We're on our first sprint. So, you know, they do it twice a year. They give us this lovely like packet that they create and a bookmark and all these things. And it's just a whole weekend of, fun. So I'm excited for that. So I'm going to get to reading this and I will let you know my thoughts and we'll see. Like I said, I definitely am going to try to get at least one more book in, for this vlog other than this, but I needed a little change of pace from, middle grade. Not that I'm getting sick of it, but I need to get this done anyway. So for class, so I figured why not include it? I love that Hades is just like this brooding person or god or whatever, but like, you know, deep down he's like got these feelings and he's not just some big brute. But I just love like this last line of the second chapter. It says you know, trying to resist his feelings for Persephone. It says flowers don't bloom in the dark. So as I said, finished it one sitting. I landed on 3 stars with this one. Been like nothing really, like no actual development of a story. It's just like something different. Like it's even like the Greek myth itself, which is literally just like a few pages. I don't know. I just felt like I wanted more like from this. Like what was on the back, like we really not even like the pictures weren't like, in my opinion, enough to tell the story visually. You know, the illustrations are beautiful. There's a lot of expressiveness, you know, in the illustrations and the faces and, you know, things like that. But I just felt like, I don't know, it didn't really do too much. Like, it wasn't bad. Like, I enjoyed it. I would give this 3 stars. But if I had to choose between this and Lore Olympus, I would choose Lore Olympus 1,000 times over. This was just kind of like, you know, it was okay. Like, you know, they just bring in all of some other characters like Apollo and Eros and like, you know, and they just like mention some of like the little bits of like their backstory, but like it has nothing to do with like what's actually going on. Whereas like in Lore Olympus, like all of those same kind of people and their stories are being brought in, but like it's actually developing the story. I gotta write my review now for this for class. I think I'm going to pick up one more book with flowers on it, and that's gonna be The Grace of Wild Things. And that'll be my last book for this vlog, because I'm still doing like a whole bunch of other things. I'm still reading a lot of stuff for middle grade March. I still have my book of the month vault book to read and vlog for that. So because it's a 24-hour book retreat that I'm doing, so it's about 11:20 now, and I'm probably gonna head to bed soon. I definitely don't make it past like the midnight mark because I'm also up early to join in, you know, early with them. Usually like they're on around 7 o'clock again because they're all in different time zones. So each one of the Booktube Besties kind of takes a different shift. And then they just leave the Zoom open all night for anyone that wants to like stay on who might be in different time zones and just kind of like facilitate their own reading sprints, things like that. But anyway, so that's where I am. So I'm going to head to bed soon. And tomorrow I will start reading The Grace of Wild Things, which will be my last book with flowers on the cover for this vlog. Well, good morning. Or should I say good afternoon? Because it's the day after the Booktube Besties Retreat. And even though it was on the computer, it was still 24 hours pretty much of staying awake and doing all the things. Even though on Friday night I went to bed around like 1:30, 1:15, something like that. So I did get a couple of hours of sleep, but it's still exhausting. So I slept in this morning. I got up this morning, did a couple things, fed the cats, but then like I actually went back to bed and I don't know, would you call it taking a nap until 11:30? So I just kind of woke up for the day again. Today, I'm going to get started on my last book of books with flowers and floral on the cover. So as you can see, we got a lot of leaves and just a whole bunch of bushes and, you know, some pretty things on there. So this one is The Grace of Wild Things by Heather Fawcett. And this is an Anne of Green Gables, like magical reimagining. It says, inspired by Anne of Green Gables, this magical story of found family, loss, and power of a girl's imagination. So this is about Grace, who is in an orphanage, and her magic hasn't really been like the best. She's not really good at it. So she decides to befriend the neighboring witch in the woods and, you know, try to become her apprentice and learn from her. But the witch is known for like gobbling up, what does it say? Gobbling up hearts and stealing souls for spells. So she is wondering if that's a good idea. Yeah. So I'm gonna get started on this, and hopefully this will be a quick read. I am still reading a couple of other books for middle grade March. I still got like 2 more prompts left. So far I have 3 prompts for name in the cover. So I still have to read a BIPOC author and siblings. I'll still finish the rest of the prompts. And the group read. I'm reading the group read as well. Oh my goodness, I forgot. I have too many books going on at once. But anyway, look how pretty that is. So it seems to be that my check-ins are either laying on the couch or laying in my bed. I don't know, guys. Just go with it. But anyway, I started this last night, and I'm only about 6 chapters in. So I could definitely see the parallel to Anne of Green Gables, because Grace is just as whiny as Anne. Oh, I always said Anne was very whiny, and I hated that. We start off right away where Grace runs away from the orphanage. So we don't get to see anything like at the orphanage. She just kind of explains how she's like this free spirit and she just wants to be in her books, and she talks about her imagination, and she comes across the witch. And so originally it's like, oh, is she really a witch? She seems like a sweet old woman. And then she wakes up and it turns out that this witch is an actual witch who is supposedly evil, just like the synopsis said. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see if it continues to go that way. But she's at the point where she's trying to convince the witch to take her on as her apprentice and, you know, teach her how to control and do her magic. So when I'm listening and reading, I feel like it's almost like some parts are almost word for word. Like, I feel like it's exactly what I read in Anne of Green Gables. So I don't know how much of this is a reimagining versus just a, hey, this is Anne of Green Gables. We just changed, you know, the names and made them magical. So I'm unsure about that, but we'll see. All right, so it's been a little while since I checked in from reading The Grace of Wild Things. Yeah, Misty wants to say hi. She's very cuddly today, so she kind of just woke up. She was sound asleep on me. The beginning of this book, I felt like I was just reading Anne of Green Gables. Literally everything, every scene felt exactly like it was the actual book. In the book, hits what's his name with her slate. Like, she does that in this book for one of her classmates. And I just felt like it was like magic kind of added in just to make it like not, or like, hey, look, it's different. But I just felt like it was exactly the same. So I am about halfway through, and I'm starting to see a little bit more, I don't want to say diversion from that, but like now the magic and the witch and like the grimoire, like all these things are actually starting to be more of like its own story, I guess, versus like before it was just kind of like, I felt like it was just like kind of a side thing. Like, I don't know. I was hoping for a more like inspired versus just like a retelling with magic added, which is what I felt like it was. I've read reimaginings before, like The Secret Garden. I read, what was it? Moon Garden. That was actually what I read last year for middle grade March. That was the group read. And I loved it. Like, you can clearly see the inspiration and like the parallels to The Secret Garden, but it was a completely different storyline. I didn't get that with this in the first half. So now I'm hoping that the second half, like I'm starting to see a little bit more of a divergent. Enjoying it, not loving it, but not hating it. So now let's see how that goes. Because I am finding that my opinion does not match up with the Goodreads reviews. Like there were so many 4 and 5 star Goodreads reviews saying how they just love that it was an inspiration of Anne, not a direct retelling. And I don't know, I'm just not seeing that. I love Anne of Green Gables. But, you know, like if I wanted to reread Anne of Green Gables, I would just pick up the book, you know? I would love the inspirations versus a direct retelling. I'm up to about 86% of The Grace of Wild Things. I have been doing a lot of running around today and a lot of things, so I've been listening mostly on audio. And we're finally, it's like I'm up to chapter 30. I'm finally feeling like there's a storyline outside of Anne of Green Gables. Like again, up until like the last, I want to say 2 chapters, I just felt like, okay, Anne of Green Gables, every single little storyline matches to a T with the exception of there's magic involved. So now we're finally at the end and we're getting to the point of the story. So I'm like intrigued now. But it was just like, again, I just felt like this whole time, if I really wanted to read Anne of Green Gables again, I would have just picked up Anne of Green Gables, you know, like the magic was just kind of like a side thing. So now it actually has a point to the story. So I'm going to finish this out. I just picked up lunch for myself. So I have a poke bowl. I'm going to finish that. I am going to listen. I'll let you know my final thoughts. Okay, so I finished The Grace of Wild Things. I am landing on 3 stars. The ending of this was what I was hoping the whole rest of the book would be. I really like the ending. The ending was so fast-paced, and I was kind of hoping to see more of that throughout the book. It definitely was unique. There were so many things that were enjoyable that I wanted to see more throughout the rest of the book. So The Grace of Wild Things could have been much more inspired by Anne than just a direct retelling, because the ending showed that. So I was hoping for more of just like inspirations where you can see like who the characters were supposed to be from the original Anne story. And even like the idea of, you know, Grace being an orphan and is begging to stay with the witch, just like Anne with Marilla in the original story. Things like that. But this was just a little too much of a copy paste from Anne with just some added elements of magic. Where this whole story, the whole element of, you know, Grace having to complete the 100 spells in the grimoire plus the half of one that, you know, was unfinished in order to stay with the witch. Like, while it was there and while we saw like her making friends with everybody to try to help them, you know, like try to get through the spells and things like that. Like all of that was there, but I felt like it was just too much of a side plot, and that should have been the forefront. And then we just get some little bits and pieces where we could say, oh yeah, that's Anne. Like that's from Anne of Green Gables. Like that's where it is, you know? It had so much more potential. However, there were so many things that I did enjoy about this. Like I did enjoy the idea of found family and friends for Grace. You know, the back and forth between, is the witch really an evil witch, or is she just a grumpy old lady? Or like, you know, some of the things that she says to Grace, it's like you get a glimpse of like, she really likes her, but then it's like, does she really like her? Like, what is she saying that for? You know, like all those things were so fun. You know, I love the Rune, I think is his name, who is supposed to be Gilbert. He was fun too. He was a fairy in this book. So I really like that. I loved the crow, Wind Weaver, I think is the crow's name. You know, like he never left her side. I love that. There were just so many cool things that I loved about this. And I just love seeing her friendship develop with all of these different people. And then I also love that the witch keeps making reference to how, like, well, don't these older people in the village know you're a witch? And she's like, well, they did it one time, you know, they've known me, and they know I'm a witch, but like, they don't want to believe it now. So it's like, they just see her as this grumpy old woman that lives in the cottage in the forest. So, you know, making like the connection that as you get older, you know, you lose your imagination. I also love that there was the poetry, and that comes into play towards the end. Like, I love so many little different elements about this. I just wish it was a little more of its own story. I definitely would recommend this. Like I said, I'm landing on 3 stars because I did enjoy it. And if you are okay with just reading the scenes of Anne with some magic, then go for it. Because literally every single scene, like where you know, she hits Gilbert over the head with the slate, and then the scene with the cherry cordial, helping when her sister is sick. Like, all of those scenes are exactly the same. Well, that's all, and I feel like this was another very successful Unstuff Your TBR vlog. Please make sure you go check out Beccie, who is the creator of this series of Unstuff Your TBR. Make sure you check out Lisa and Monica's videos as well to see what they read during the month of March. I will make sure to link all of them down below. And also, let me know down in the comments, have you read any of these books? I'd love to hear all your thoughts, especially The Grace of Wild Things. And if you just want to let me know that you were here, but you're a little too shy to comment, then leave me some type of floral, flower, nature emoji down in the comments. Well, that's all I have for now. Bye!